Welcome to the short presentation. I want to share some research with you that we've recently done, where we looked at the relationship between intergroup contact and valuing diversity. And I'm going to suggest that valuing diversity is indeed an important and underappreciated outcome of contact. Why should we care about valuing diversity? Well, there is increasing diversity in most societies, where there's a strong discourse suggesting that multiculturalism is dead, that diversity is best dealt with by ignoring it and focusing on colorblind approaches. And this is the case in spite of strong evidence that identity-conscious approaches lead to more positive interactions between groups and to a greater endorsement of intergroup equality. But it's not easy to promote a valuing of diversity, and some simple interventions have been shown to backfire. So that's when we started to look at intergroup contact, because intergroup contact is one of the most reliable ways to reduce prejudice. We thought it might actually be a way to improve the valuing of diversity. And to date, there's some research suggesting linkages between contact and valuing diversity, but it's very unclear in what direction the link goes and how they are specifically linked. So our first question was about directionality. Does valuing diversity lead to contact, or does contact lead to valuing diversity, or both? For that, we used a longitudinal study we conducted with a UK student sample. And then we were wondering whether valuing diversity might explain the established effects of intergroup contact on prejudice and behavioral intentions. And to that end, we ran two mediation studies, one with another UK student sample and one with a German population sample. In that, we focused on explicit self-report measures of valuing diversity. We asked the participants, how much do you value diversity as a personal preference in study 1, and as something that makes society work better in studies 2 and 3. And the contact measures were simply the frequency of positive and negative experiences. So in study 1, you pretty much only need to look at these two lines, because we found that contact predicts the valuing of diversity over time, with positive contact leading to an increase and negative contact leading to a decrease, while the reverse direction had much smaller estimated paths and they were not significant. So based on that, we then looked at whether the increase in valuing diversity might explain the links between contact and other outcomes. And we looked at 4 different outcomes: cognitive and affective prejudice, bystander intervention intentions, and support for pro-diversity policies. And we pitted valuing diversity against the 2 best established mediators, intergroup empathy and anxiety. And we found that valuing diversity helped explain the contact effect for most of the outcomes, namely for both prejudice measures and for policy support. And it was the strongest mediator for the 2 cognitive outcomes, cognitive prejudice and policy support. To make sure that we're not just finding an effect among UK students, we then moved on to a German population sample and considered the mediation again, this time controlling for attitudes towards foreigners, to make sure that valuing diversity is not just a proxy for outgroup attitudes. And again, we found clear links between contact and valuing diversity, and between valuing diversity and an outcome of contact, in this case, approach intentions. Approach intentions here were about neighborhood choices. So the suggestion here that contact increases those via valuing diversity might provide a pathway to reduce the social segregation we see so frequently. Overall, it appears that contact promotes the valuing of diversity, positive contact that is, in at least 2 different contexts. And that valuing diversity can help explain the established effects of intergroup contact on both prejudice and behavioral intentions, and thereby help us understand how contact works. Given the last study, if valuing diversity predicts approach intentions, there might be potential for a virtuous cycle in which valuing diversity leads to more contact, which in turn leads to more valuing diversity and other positive outcomes. We didn't find that in our longitudinal data, but there's a need for further research there. So thank you for listening. You can find our preprint under this QR code, and I would be glad to hear from you, any comments and questions.